welcome to Ultra TV, the cinematic lace to Ultra Magazine's shoe. We're here today at the OMM Centre in Lancaster, and I'm delighted to be joined by Ellis Bland, who is attempting a double Bob Graham this weekend, and we are here to find out from Ellis the details of his event. So Ellis, can you talk us through your pedigree then? What does your running history look like so far?
So my running history so far, I've been running from a very early age. I'm an August birth, so I was always about a year younger than a lot of my rivals as such. So from about the age of under 4s, under 5s, Grasmere Sports, Ambleside Sports, raced Scarecrows, which was, I think the junior race was literally round the field from the main village. Right. And I carried on racing right the way up to about the under 16s, racing in the Bofra series. I then put running to one side. I played a lot of other sports always throughout my life, a lot of football, a lot of rugby. Went off to Durham University at the age of 18, didn't do much running at all there, very much went to university to find new friends. I had a lot of fun, as you say, probably drank a bit too much.
Right, the full university experience.
The full university experience, I definitely had that. And after I left Durham, I very much wasn't in an identity crisis, but I wasn't playing rugby anymore, I wasn't playing football, I certainly wasn't as fit as I used to be, and I just started running again. It felt very natural, very organic, just started running for the love of running, rediscovering why I loved it. And I mean, they weren't groundbreaking runs, I was just running up and down the canal, and these canal runs got further and further, and then I was out in the Bowland Fells. And since then, so that's a good 6 years ago, I've not stopped running and run most days and, well, run most distances.
Right. So the Bland surname is synonymous, certainly up in the north of England, and I'm pretty sure nationally, with fell running. So, yeah, how's that connection for you? Have you felt any pressure from that at all?
A bit of pressure. I'd be lying if I said not to. I mean, you only have to look at the history of fell running and see the amount of Blands who have toppled Borrowdale and the other big Lakeland classics. But for me, I've never felt the pressure, in the sense that it's never been an expectation of me. I will probably, and I should say probably, never win Borrowdale fell race. It's unlikely. I much prefer the longer stuff. It's quite rare for a runner of my age, 27, nearly 28. From the age of about 23, I've made the decision to specialise in the long stuff. You know, there's a high chance I won't peak until I'm in. Well, look at the success of some of the guys I idolise. I mean, like Damien Hall, for example, John Kelly, like true greats of the sport. I mean, Damien's up in his 40s, and you know, he's absolutely at the top of the game. So I made that decision very early on. And because of that, I very much kissed goodbye to the whole, I'm going to come off the back of Dalehead as fast as I can. Mm-hmm. It's never been an option for me. I much prefer sequencing entire ranges. I much prefer taking on things like the double Bob Graham. Right. So there's no pressure, there's a bit of expectation, and there's a bit of pride at stake. You know, sure. I am proud to be a Bland, and I'm from a family, and definitely an extended family, of runners. Now, we're not doing it to keep the Bland legacy living on, but we are definitely doing it for some self-pride, so okay. That's where I'm at with that.
Right. So, talk us through it then. What's the appeal of the double Bob Graham? Because most people get to Moot Hall and get back to Moot Hall, and they say, right, that's it, I'm done. So, why a BG, and then why a double BG?
Yeah. Good question. I ran my first Bob Graham when I was 24 years old. We had at Ennerdale Youth Hostel. I had about 20 friends come up. It was a baking hot summer solstice in June. And I got around about 1740. I don't know why I'm questioning it, I know, 1747. Okay. And we had an hour's worth of breaks that day at checkpoints, and it was a really good day out. And I finished and I was knackered, and I really felt it. My quads were sore, my knees were sore. And I went away and I reflected, and I carried on running, and I came back to running probably too quickly. I was younger and naive then. but I always had this like earworm and niggle, and it was always like, you could go further than that, and you could go further, and you could probably do it faster. And I was just so inspired, and always have been, with the likes of Nikki Spinks, and I mean her doubles, not just on the bob, I mean the Paddy, the Rams, it's unbelievable. And she's very much a trailblazer, and the fact that she just said, I'm going to do this, I mean, it's never been done. You know, what I'm doing is almost easier, it's been done.
Yeah.
And once the seed got sown, it was there. And the only difference between what I'm doing and what Nikki did is Nikki went clockwise to U barrow, same as Roger Baumeister, back to Keswick, anti-clockwise to U barrow, back to Keswick. I'm going anti-clockwise, whole loop,
Right.
clockwise, whole loop.
Okay.
Reason being, it's a totally different route going anti-clockwise. Some legs feel a lot easier. Conventional leg 4 and a clockwise, so leg 2 anti-clockwise feels relatively easy. It's a very difficult leg clockwise. Leg 3 going anti-clockwise is unbelievably difficult. You have a huge climb up Scarfell. You've then got a really picky descent down onto Scarfell Pike, and from there on in, it's quite difficult running. So I cannot say it's easier going one way or the other.
Right.
So it's for the challenge why I'm doing the double, but also because I just feel like I absolutely have to do it. I feel it needs to be done, and I really want to do it. So
Great. So this isn't your first rodeo, in as far as the double BG is concerned. Can you just talk us through last year, your attempt last year, and share with us some of the lessons that you learned coming into this weekend?
yeah, absolutely. A lot of lessons learnt. We'll start with that. I went after the double Bob Graham last year. I went for a clockwise, anti-clockwise attempt. From the outsider looking in, it would have looked like everything was going perfectly, if anything too good, and it was too good to be true. I was a long-term sufferer of plantar fasciitis, and it started wreaking havoc from pretty much about leg 2. I persevered, but my descending was off, and my stride was changing, and I could feel it was coming undone. And I made it back to Keswick. I was still in good spirit, finished the first lap, if you like. I got around in 1952, so about 8 minutes up on schedule, and then headed back out. And on the climb up Robinson, it just became unbearable. And I don't know, well, anyone who's watching this who's suffered with plantar fasciitis will know what it can feel like. And it was like a knife coming through the sole of my foot. And I dropped down into Honister, and I called it a day there. And a lot of people online said, oh, he's canned it at Honister, and I feel that's harsh. You know, I did can it at Honister, but it was a very much methodical and thought out way to exit. You know, I'm a 27-year-old runner, and I want to run until I'm 80. The very thought that I pushed on for some sort of glory or pride, it didn't even come into it. I felt bad on my paces, but you have to stop. You know, those days are gone. We know too much about our bodies. We know too much about the science of bodies to know the damage you can cause from keeping on going when you shouldn't. So we called it a day there, and I went to bed. I woke up the next day, and my body felt okay, just my foot was very sore. And I think as early as that morning, my girlfriend said to me, you're going to do this again, aren't you? And I said, yeah, as soon as I can, I'm going to. I really feel, and I felt then, as I feel now, that I had unfinished business, and I will be going at it again, and I can't wait. Now, the lessons I learned from that, though, were exponential. You know, I started working with a new coach. His name's Rowan Wood, and I cannot praise him enough. What he's done, he's changed everything for me. You know, I no longer train at that 80-20%, so 80% hard, 20% easy. Now I'm constantly training effectively, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm constantly ending myself. And I've just learned to love running again. You know, I used to bounce from trail marathon one weekend, sometimes then I'd race the Sunday, then I'd have a week off, but I'd be training, so 100-mile week, then I'd race again, and then I'd wonder why I was injured every 6 weeks, and then have 6 weeks off, And since I've worked with Rowan, I mean, it's been very different because I've not raced for 9 months now. Everything in the last 9 months has been about this one event. So it's been very specific training, but this has all come off the back of the failed attempt. And I think as a society, not just in running, in all sports, we don't celebrate failure enough, and we certainly try not to learn anything from it. Whereas actually, me having success winning trail marathons and podiuming in XYZ, I wasn't learning anything because I was still hammering myself the next week, and then I would still get injured. Whereas I failed at something and it was like, right, you need to change because this isn't conducive. There's no longevity in this method. There was no method in the madness. And while some would consider this double Bob Graham madness, there's been a hell of a lot of method gone into this. So, and it's all come off the back of a failure which I canned at Honister, and testament to the person that wrote that online, because it's really fired me up and I'm determined to not can it again. So,
well, I mean, discretion's the better part of valour, isn't it? That's the old adage.
Definitely.
And I think it takes a lot of courage for somebody to be able to realise when enough's enough. I've spoken to other athletes about this, and actually make the right decision at the right time, because typically it's about longer term goals, isn't it? It's about the bigger picture. So ultimately you knew you wanted to complete a double Bob Graham. Didn't look realistic you were going to do it that attempt out. So in order to do it again, you needed to ensure that you had enough preservation and enough ability for your body to heal, ready for the next time to go again.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay. So all credit to you for that decision. All credit, it seems, to Rowan, is it?
Yeah.
To Rowan Wood,
Yeah.
for his role in reshaping your training. Are you able to talk to us a little bit about what your training looks like, or has looked like coming into this event? You mentioned that you've done the inverse of the old Ellis.
Yeah.
So we're now
yeah.
kind of, are we 80% easy, 20% hard? How does it look?
Maybe from the outsider looking in, it would look 80% easy. Me and Rowan have this thing where he says, right, you don't need to be a speedboat for this event. You know, you're now a tugboat. So I'd say 80% of my running now is hard miles, but it's hard in a very different sense. You know, it's long days out. So I'm a stats man, so I'm probably working on about, let's say, 80 to 100 plus miles a week. Involved in that will be about 20,000 feet of climb per week. So it's a lot of time on the feet, you know, getting that elevation and that mileage, looking sort of 18 hours a week of running alone, and then there's everything else that goes with it, all the conditioning, etc., which has all been off the back of Rowan. I never used to do that. I never used to condition, and I was headless, you'd say. And so that's how a standard week looks in terms of the numbers. For this particular event, it's been really specific, because in essence what I have been doing could be perceived, and has been perceived, as quite boring training. You know, oh, another month of boring miles, 400 miles with no races, loads of elevation, same running, different day. So to combat that, we have put in a series of events along the way, challenges if you like, FKTs, however you want to call them. So back in December, I think we chose the most brutal winter Saturday in Bowland history, it felt like anyway, where we went around the Bowland 1500s, 47 mile route over really tough peatland, moorland, anything. I ran through it that day, and just to set a time on that, at the end of March I went around the Lancashire Way Northern Loop. That was 110 miles. The reason we did all of this was sort of to give me something back. You know, it isn't easy, and I'm happy to say this. Motivation does waver. You know, there's a reason people love to race in any discipline. The reason footballers love to play matches, it's because you need that endorphin release, and I wasn't getting that. So these events came in, and it just kept me fired up, because it was a constant, this is what you're working towards, this is what you're working towards. But always at the back of my mind, and it's written on the wall in my bathroom, is double Bob Graham. So all these events were there, but they were all for this double bob, so they're all like a series of subsidiaries which I'm climbing towards, and then it's the double bob. So I mean, I guess if you were to look at my Strava, the training would look like this, and then I'd hit an event, and then I would taper off for a week or so, then we'd go again, and constantly just working our way up on the effort scale,
right,
up until this point now where it's time for the big one at the end. So
okay, so you've done the hard miles, you've put them in your legs, and you've got your cardio engine to where it needs to be. How about the fueling for the body? How scientific have you been in your approach to nutrition for the event, and kind of trying different nutritional strategies as part of your training program?
It's definitely come into play. I think when you're running these long days, some of these runs are 12 hours long just in a training run. Obviously you can't have such regimented meal times. I wish I ran a discipline where you can do that. It's not always that straightforward. So there has definitely been science in terms of the foods that I've been consuming. I don't eat fast foods, for example. Yeah, I do have a pizza every Friday, because I normally have a very long run on a Saturday. So I'm not this boring guy who only eats the super most cut down foods, but I eat a lot because I need to. I never want to slip into a calorie deficit. For this particular event, for example, I'm running it at about just under 12 stone. Normally I race at 11 stone 6, so for the last 6 months I've actually been putting weight on for this event, which has been fun in many respects and frustrating in others. Frustrating is I feel sometimes, God, I feel so heavy, but fun because it's like, God, look at all this food I get to eat. It's great. But discipline comes into that. There's a lot of fish-based food. There's a lot of getting my oil levels right up, keeping the body ticking over. So there has been science in it, but first and foremost, it has been sensible. I'm not the sort of guy who is just going to starve myself because I feel I should lose weight. In that method, that is madness, and it causes injury, and I have done it before. For many, many years, I would be bulimic. I wouldn't eat when I was supposed to eat because I was looking at all the guys I was racing with, and at the time I was at 12.5 stone and they were 10, and I wanted to be 10 stone, and it took me years to work out that I'll never be 10 stone, and that was that.
Okay, so talking about you say you haven't been that scientific, do you have an understanding of kind of how often you're going to eat when you're doing your double bob, Graham? How many calories you think you need over the course of an hour, 2 hours per leg? Have you kind of done that level of data crunching?
Oh, definitely. No, I'm a fanatical planner, and all my pacers know, and if they don't know yet, they're going to know soon. I'll be eating every 20 minutes.
Right.
That could be anything from a piece of flapjack, a Snickers, yogurt, nuts. It has to be varied. And I'll eat every 20 minutes and be drinking little and often. You don't want to flood yourself, but there is, it's going to be a hot weekend. The forecast is out. It will be warm. And I like the heat, but it does add other challenges, salt deficit, and so that has to come into play. But we've had a lot of fun with it as well. My mum, and I have to give her a shout out, Joy Mitten, is catering the whole event, roadside support, and she's an amazing cook, an amazing baker, and I don't know what I'm being fed, and she's kept that from me. She knows the sort of foods I should be eating. I have complete faith in her.
As a mum does.
As a mum always does. She's got me this far, and so there's excitement there. You have to find fun in this chaotic event, and the very fact that I'm coming into a checkpoint and not knowing what I'm going to get. I mean, she's a Lancashire lass, born and bred, so you can guarantee there'll be a hot pot in there, but other than that I really don't know what or when I'm going to get. So again, there is science there, but you just need to be taking on the food. I mean, maybe I'll be going through 15,000 calories that day. In terms of what I'm losing, I won't be able to consume that many, so I will be in a calorie deficit. So it's about eating smart, and it's about eating often, and that's fortunately something that I'm quite good at. So
used to doing great stuff. Okay, interesting. So I suppose the question has to be then, what peaks are you most looking forward to ascending?
I mean, I'm an out and out climber. I much prefer going up than down, hence why something like a double Bob Graham appeals to me.
Mm-hmm.
What ascent I'm most looking forward to, I've already touched on it, it's probably Scarfell. I mean, you take on about 3,000 plus feet inside about 2 miles of running. It's long, it's brutal, but it's always very quiet, especially at 6 a.m, but you don't have the walkers going up the walking path. You actually make the approach up Scarfell quite different to how you descend on a conventional BG. So on a standard Bob Graham, coming clockwise, you come down the screes. On an anti-clockwise, the preferred route is to not go up the screes.
Right.
And having done that, I can tell you it's not a good idea. You sort of hang there and come right round and then up above the screes and then make the approach to the top. That's arguably the climb I'm most looking forward to. And then I have favourites on the route as well, moments on the Bob, which I've always enjoyed being on. The one that always springs to mind is on Rays. It's a summit on the Helvellyn range. For most people, they probably just take it in and they'd never even think twice of it. It's not necessarily very significant. The climb up to it isn't anything special, but it's a very special summit to me. It's a very gnarly cairn at the top. It almost looks more like a statue. It looks like a work of art, which I guess a lot of cairns are, but it looks so purpose built. I like it so much. I actually got it tattooed onto my leg.
Thanks for that. Favourite ascents. I think people may question your sanity when you're talking about Scarfell as one of your favourite ascents. Let's flip that on its head then. I mean, you say you're not a kind of out and out descender, but are there any descents on the route that kind of stand out for you that you think, do you know what, I can't wait to get to that bit and kind of get a bit of a stride on?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely ones which I can wait to do. But in terms of what I can't wait to do, I mean, again, I can't wait to ascend Scarfell. I also can't wait to come off it, and it's a lot of people's favourites on the clockwise Bob Graham. You know, you're coming down the scree shoots, you can see the car park, you know you've got food, family, friends there, you know. That's a great one, because you're almost home there in many respects. You're into Wasdale, and some people call it the graveyard, you know, some people call it the gate where you're on the way back in. A big one for me, and it'll be a real moment of happiness, is coming off the back of Great Gable on the second day. You know, Gable is just such a special fell, and you come down, it's a real techie descent, but it's a little short climb up Green Gable, but then that long roll down into Honister, you tick off a couple more summits. But once I'm there, and I really hope I'm there in good time, I hopefully will start to be enjoying it, and that is a descent I cannot wait to do, because I should hopefully then be home and dry, and I'll be able to enjoy the last leg as much as possible.
Yeah, because it's then you just got the drag up to Dalehead from Honister, a couple of other little peaks, and then blasting on the road. Huh?
Yeah, no, I can't wait for that, actually, rolling into Honister. And yeah, I want the fate of my round to have been decided by Honister, and people keep asking me, does anything make you nervous? And I mean, my schedule is a record attempt schedule. You know, it is quicker than the current record. Like I've said, I'm not going after the record per se in this. It just so happens that my schedule is quicker, and as a result it will be. But I have always said I do not want to get to Honister in a race situation where I have to either fly through. You know, I don't mind if I get to Honister and the record is so far from my reach that it's over. Ideally I get there and I've got all the time in the world, but I do not want to get there and people will be saying, right, get a move on, because I'm not going to be wanting to do that. So
it's a lot of pressure on a last leg, isn't it, even though it's a short
I want to put it to bed early, or I want to be put to bed early, but I do not want to be racing on that last leg. That road section's bad enough as it is.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay, Ellis, so maybe you can just share with us, what do you get out of these events on a personal level?
Yeah, I mean, on the face of it, it is a really selfish sport, you know. I am going to run for a weekend, 50 people are going to support it, and it's all just to get me back to where I started. For me though, it's so much bigger than that. You know, this isn't just a goal for me. You know, there's a lot of people rooting for this, and there's a lot of people who can't wait to be out on the fells. And whether it's a single Bob Graham, whether you're just starting to recce the legs, whether you're going to do anti-clockwise, clockwise, a double, whether you're doing a Paddy Buckley, a Ramsey round, it's much more than just a long run. It's a real celebration of the fells and that camaraderie that comes with it. A lot of like-minded people working together to get someone to reach their goal, and I think that's such a beautiful thing, and it's a totally selfless act. You know, it may look like a selfish sport, but what they're doing is selfless. So what drives me to do it, what I'm looking for, what personal achievements, there are very few. I'm looking for a really good weekend with a lot of friends, a lot of family, and it's going to be a really good experience. It's just going to be fun, and if I can look back at this with positive memories of a great time spent on the fells, and that will be how I measure success, and I really can't wait for that.
The community is something quite special, isn't it, around the ultra running world anyway, and I think whilst you talk about it maybe appearing to be quite selfish, in terms of a unified ideology, everybody wants each other to succeed. And I think one of the things that's really quite special about our community is undoubtedly if somebody puts the call out for some support, you know, maybe not next week, maybe you might need a little bit of recovery time, but you know, at some point in the future you'll be able to throw your hat in the ring to support them to do whatever they want to achieve as well.
Oh, definitely. I mean, even after last year's failed attempt at the double, I got a message from a guy supporting me again on my double saying, can you come and give me a hand on my round? And I was just back fighting fit. I said, yeah, of course I can. And yeah, he's a class runner called Runar based over in Hull, and he's there on mine. You know, that's how it works. You help someone, they will help you. You may then need them again and they'll come and give you a hand. And yeah, it's been a really long year in terms of everything that's been going on in the world with the pandemic, and racing's just started up again. But for many, this is all we've had is the fells, and we've not been able to spend much time with other people. That's why this means a lot, because I've got a lot of friends there, and it will be a really special weekend no matter what happens. You know, just getting that many people together again and being allowed to do so is a luxury, and I never ever thought I'd be able to say that or have to say that, but I can't wait to see that. Yeah.
Wonderful. Great. Ellis, thank you for that. It's been so great talking to you today. Just on behalf of everybody at Ultra TV and Ultra Magazine and the community that we've just lovingly spoken about,
yeah, true.
Good luck at the weekend. We really do wish you all the very best, and we can't wait for part 2 of this interview where we'll be talking to you after the weekend to find out how everything's gone.
Thank you very much. I can't wait.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ellis.
Cheers very much. Thank you.